And the lobster would be very upset.
Yeah, I'd be screaming. Oh, God.
Can you hear the lamb screaming, Clarice? I ate this lobster with a nice Chianti and some fava beans. Welcome to Maker's Hustle, the podcast about turning your passion into a profession. This is episode 8 for Monday, August 29th, 2016. I'm your host, Bill Lavolsi. With me, as always, are Amy Davis-Roth. Hey, Amy.
8 is my favorite number.
And Jeffrey Moore. Hey, Jeff.
She totally threw me off. I'm so thrown off. I have no idea what's happening right now.
We're starting the show.
Oh, man.
And like always, we're going to start by thanking our top Patreon supporters, Jim Bashirs and Scott Hahn. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. We love you.
If you would like to support the show, check us out at patreon.com/makershustle. We actually just put together our pitch video. You should check that out. It's really funny.
It is funny. You did a great job on that, Bill. It's really great.
Thank you. So, what's everybody working on this week? And I don't want to annoy anyone, so who wants to go first?
Let's flip a coin.
I don't have any money right now, so can you flip a coin for me?
I don't have any either. I'll go first.
All right.
Mine's is short and sweet. I've been working on robots, just finalizing a few things, and I am very happy with what I've been working on. I actually shared a picture. I've been testing out some laser cuts, and I've been using them on my robots, and Bill kind of encouraged me to put that on social media. So thank you, Bill, for that.
You're very welcome.
Got a lot of people, telling me it looks good. So I'm happy with that feedback.
Hey, it's almost like people want to see your stuff.
Oh, my goodness. What do you know?
I know. Maybe you should post some more.
No,
more often than once every 4 months. Come on, dude.
No, you're right. You're right.
Amy, what about you?
Hey, I'm working on ceramic stuff. What a surprise! Right now, I'm doing some experiments with glass frit glazes. So basically, that is little bits of glass that you can put into a clear glaze and, paint whatever. So I do a lot of designs that are basically like printmaking. So I'll do a drawing, for example, of a koi fish, and then I'll turn it into a mold, and then I will press it into the clay, and then I'll let it dry. I'll fire it. I'll then paint in the black areas that I want, and then once that's dry, I will paint over the top. And so I've been experimenting with a lot of different glazes because I'm trying to get sort of an effect of like an underwater look or an under ice look. And so I've been using different frits to find which ones are transparent enough so that my designs will show through from underneath. And I've come up with some really great stuff. I have this mixture of these different blues that is like come out exactly the way I wanted it to. It's so beautiful. I've done a bunch of lotus flowers, koi fish, and a few other designs with that. I absolutely love it. I'm going to use my tardigrades, which I finished the illustration of last week, and I also made a mold of it. So I'm going to use tardigrades because they're water bears, and they live underwater or in like moist areas, and they can also survive boiling water and freezing water and outer space and all that great stuff. So this glass frit glaze that I'm working on is going to be perfect for the water bear surly-ramics that I'm going to do this coming week. So I've been working on that, and I'm also working on a book, you guys. I'm putting together a coloring book of all of my robot drawings, and it's called the Feel Good Bar and Grill. And so right now I have a person that is doing all the layout. A graphic designer is laying out the book for me, and so we're fine-tuning it right now. I'm working on just the story, so I'm putting that together, and I'm really, really trying to get this done in time for Geek Girl Con and Maker Faire, but at least for sure by the holidays. So I'm really, really excited about both of those projects.
That is super cool.
That sounds awesome.
What is a frit?
Frit, it's glass.
Okay.
It's like smashed up bits of glass.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's basically all frit is. And you can mix it. You mix these little bits of glass, and you can get them in different sizes. They come in coarse or fine. Or you can get even really big pieces. And some people use it to do glass work. Like they will make stained glass, and they'll use a kiln, and they'll fire to a much lower temperature than you would to fire ceramics or porcelain. And they'll do glass work with frit. But I take a lot of it and I mix it into either pre-mixed glazes that I have, or what I usually use is a clear or a crackle glaze, because crackle's my absolute favorite. And what crackle is it when it heats up, it expands, but when it cools, it shrinks. And so it cracks, and it forms all these little, looks antiqued on the surface. And so I like to mix the glass frit in with the crackle glazes, and you get these really fantastic effects because then the glass that's in with the crackle glaze also cracks. So it sort of mixes together and it makes this really, really great effect. And if we can put a picture up on our show notes, you can take a look. I sent a picture to Bill and Jeff earlier of the koi fish and the lotus flower and a couple trees that I did with this new blue glass frit glaze that I'm using.
That is a lot. And just trying to visualize how you did it.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So I'm going to YouTube it or so that I can understand what it is that you're saying, because it sounds awesome.
Okay, well, imagine like you have like a mud backyard, right? And when it's wet, after it rains, it's all really smooth. But then after it dries out, the ground cracks and pulls apart. Essentially, that's the same thing that's happening with a crackle glaze. So when it heats up, it's liquid. And as it cools and contracts, it breaks apart. And so it creates these nice, little fissures all through the surface. And adding the frit to it essentially is me experimenting with different color combinations, because I can get frit in a bunch of different colors, and depending on what temperature you fire to, you get different effects. So the red, for example, may be darker. It usually is darker if you fire to a higher temperature. If you fire to a lower temperature, it's more orangey. And the same thing with blues. You can get a deeper blue if you fire to a lower temperature, and a lighter blue when you fire to a higher temperature. And then you can also mix colors together. So I'm experimenting because I got my hands on some frit that I really like. And I have also used a lot of recycled glass where I would smash up bottles and mix that in with my glazes too. That's a little bit more difficult because a lot of times with bottles that you find that you recycle, there's contaminants in them. And when that happens, you'll get black specks and really sort of ugly looking things that happen in the glazes. If you get frit from an actual company that produces frit, it's a lot more pure, and so you're guaranteed better color results.
So you said you do experimenting. Do you like take notes, or do you just remember what the temperature and what the colors and all that stuff is going to end up looking like?
Yeah, I usually write, like if I have a commercially made glaze, I'll write on the top of the jar, like what the effects are at different cone temperatures so that I know. And I'll also write the effects that'll happen if you paint clear over it, because that will cause a chemical reaction that will change colors. And then most of the frits, I usually, after time, just remember. I know for one thing that it's better to fire them to a lower temperature, as low as you can go without getting any air bubbles in it. And you get richer colors that way.
Very interesting. I think we need to spend like a day in your shop and just watch you do all the stuff with the glass and the ceramics.
All right.
Like that would be freaking awesome.
You should come hang out.
Next time I'm on the West Coast.
Do it. Come out. It's fun here. Come in the springtime. It's summer right now, and I can't deal. It's too hot.
Yeah, me either.
No, don't come out here in the summer.
I don't even want to leave the house in the summertime. All right, Bill, your turn.
Yeah, okay. I just finished up. I gave away a couple of those keychain multi-tool things on YouTube, and I managed to pick 2 winners who are both international, so now I get to ship 2 of those things internationally, so that's fun.
There you go.
And then I started another giveaway on my Instagram that's at One Car Workshop, and this episode actually will come out 2 days before it's over, so if you want in on it, you can still get there. What you have to do is go to my Instagram, find the picture, repost it, and hashtag OCW giveaway, and you can win this bottle opener that I made. And I just added a key fob that I made out of walnut, and I burned my logo into it.
I saw that. I want that, actually.
You want that?
Are we allowed to win?
Yes, you're allowed to win.
All right. Yes, I want that One Car Workshop key fob. I like that.
Cool.
Really good.
And I'm not going to say too much, but that might not be the last thing that I'm adding to the pile. There might be more stuff. So we'll see. But other than that...
the people, Bill.
What's up?
I said way to incentivize the people.
Yeah, you got to enter. There's more stuff coming. And I'm not going to, spam your email or sell your information. But other than that, all that I've really been doing this week is cleaning the house.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Like a lot.
Me too. Why are you cleaning the house?
I am cleaning the house because a friend of mine is going to be in town as of next Tuesday, and then after that, I'm going to New York Maker Faire, and the house had better be clean when I'm gone.
Oh my gosh, is it that soon?
I was about to say, you see my face?
Is it
Yeah,
that
it's
soon?
Oh,
well, I'm gonna be there for like a week beforehand. I'm basically gonna be there the entire week leading up to Maker Faire, and then the weekend of Maker Faire, and then I'm gonna fly back on Monday. So what I'm trying to do is just, if my wife is gonna be here by herself, I want the house to be nice, which means I gotta clean it. Since I'm the one who makes most of the mess, I figure I should be the one cleaning it up.
that's very courteous of you.
No,
so
it's not.
nice.
Courteous of me would have been not letting it get this bad in the first place, but
Very true.
But yeah, that's what I've been doing this week is just a lot of how did this get here? I don't even know what this is. Why is this in the closet? That goes in the garbage, that kind of thing. Then I'm trying to donate as much of it. If it's useful, I try not to throw it away, But just sorting through it takes time, so it's taken me a little longer than it otherwise would just because I'm not doing one of those cleaning jobs where you just shove everything in the closet and shut the door, and as long as the door closes, you're good.
That's me.
Yeah, I'm not doing one of those. I'm doing the actual, like, you can look in all the doors, you can look under the bed, everything's fine. I want, like, the real cleaning. Amy's looking at me like I'm an alien.
I'm not looking at you like an alien. I'm just looking at you because I have been cleaning the house like mad, too, because I have a friend coming to visit, and he's coming tonight, and he's an astronomer. He's like a famous astronomer, and I'm really kind of excited.
I bet it's Phil Plait. Is it Phil Plait?
It's Phil Plait. I love Phil Plait, the bad astronomer, so much. He's so great. So hopefully I'll have some really interesting science news to share with everybody on the next couple of weeks of podcasting because he'll be staying here, I think, for like 6 weeks. He's here in Los Angeles to work on some sort of a secret project that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Ooh, hush, hush.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Amy has friends in high places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had. Did you guys see my Instagram feed this?
Yes, we did.
Last
You
weekend.
were partying with the big dogs.
Yeah.
I had so much fun. I got invited to a fancy wedding in San Francisco, and it was Norm Chan and Danica. And Norm Chan is on Tested with Adam Savage. And so I got to hang out with Adam Savage, and I got to hang out with Norm Chan, obviously, and my friend Danica, who married him. And it was so much fun, and there were so many great people there.
And Simone Yetch was there.
Yes, she was there. She's also on Tested. She makes terrible robots or stupid
She's
robots.
the queen of shitty robots.
Shitty robots, yeah. She's really great. Got to hang out with her for a bit. Got to hang out with Bonnie Burton, who is a really well-known crafter and sort of the feminist scene. She just did a crafting with feminism book. It's 25 projects made with girl power. It's really super cute. And so I got to hang out with her too. It's a lot of fun. Hung out with really great people. I feel really lucky and special that I got invited to that wedding. I had so much fun.
I hate you. Before we get into this week's topic, a few updates. I wanted to give a big thank you to Mark Spagnolo, the Wood Whisperer, because he said some very nice things about our show.
Definitely.
If you are joining us from Wood Talk, make sure to leave a comment and say hi. And thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate it. I hope your tattoo session goes well.
I love Mark. I want to be friends with Mark. Mark, if you're listening, I want to hang out and get tattooed with you. Like every time I hear about Mark, he's in a tattoo chair, and that just makes my heart swell 100 times. That's literally how I learned how to draw, you guys, is I worked in tattoo shops and I hung out with tattoo artists. So that's like my home. Like being in a tattoo shop is like a happy place for me. So I sort of feel like me and Mark would get along really well.
Yeah, and I think he said he listened to a couple of them while he was getting tatted.
Yeah.
He said he was in the chair for 6 hours and he binged through every single episode.
There we go.
That's
There we go.
great. So we
Yeah.
helped him get through. That's great.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. This week
do
we're
it.
talking about negativity, criticism, and trolling. When it comes to feedback, there's positive feedback, and then there's the other kind. But when is criticism valid? Does negativity get in the way of your hustle? What is trolling, and when does it happen?
You asked a lot of questions.
That
I'm
is
still
a
trying
whole
to
lot.
process
Also,
that.
for the record, that was 3 questions. 3.
All right.
Okay, well, I can sort of get started on the topic if you
All
want.
right. Amy's list.
You know what? This list is in my head because I'm such a pro at this whole trolling situation.
There's no list?
There's
It's a quasi list.
there's a list in my mind. I have a list.
So there's no list.
There is a list for things I should recommend later.
Show's canceled. We're done.
What are we doing here?
All right, Amy, why don't you go ahead with your fake list that's in your head, not
so
real.
unprepared for this episode, you guys. Should we stop recording and I can go make a list?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so I happen to have a lot of experience with trolling because about 3 or 4 years ago, I was the target of an online harassment campaign. And this was before Gamergate happened. It was a situation that happened in I guess, the atheist community that I was involved with, because I write for a blog called Skepchick. And so one of the women, Rebecca Watson, who is in charge of the blog Skepchick, was being targeted by a very high-profile atheist by the name of Richard Dawkins, who said some really nasty things to her. This really had nothing to do with me at all, except for the fact that I wrote for the same blog. And so what happened was a large group of people, particularly men's rights activists and I think like anti-feminists and just a bunch of people in the atheist community that really didn't like women, went after Rebecca Watson, and then by default also went after me because I was like second on the list, I guess. It was a very strange situation that I will never fully understand. But what happened was I had my home address posted online, which is called doxing. They posted directions on how to get to my house. I was harassed nonstop for about 2 years on Twitter, on every kind of social media. I had my business targeted. People would go after my customers online. If anyone would communicate with me, they would then start harassing them or say things like my jewelry was made out of toxic materials. They did all kinds of things where they would try to get my online store shut down. It went on for years. So I'm very experienced with sort of dealing with negativity online. And it was, I think, one of the first high profile cases of internet trolling and Twitter cyber harassment that was sort of documented. And since this time, it's become a very common theme. It happens to not only women, it happens to men now. I have a lot of male friends that are being targeted for the artwork that they make. Maybe somebody doesn't like the design, or maybe it's like pro-gay or pro some sort of an issue that they're not happy with. And then these groups of people go after you and attack you. So I'm like, really, if you guys have any questions about how to deal specifically with negativity, or how to sort of tell the difference between what is harassment and what is criticism, I guess you could ask me, because I've seen it all.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is wrong with these people?
I don't know. Okay, so for real, every time we ever had to look into a particular situation where someone was harassing us, like say, for example, we were getting death threats or rape threats, which happened on a regular basis, and it still happens occasionally on the blog. That's
charming. Okay.
Yeah, on the blog that I write for. So whenever we had to get, or we attempted to get the police or any type of authority involved, we would research the person, try to find out their identity if they were anonymous. And in every particular case, it sounds cliche, but every single time it was a very unhappy person that was unhappy with their life for whatever reason. And it made them feel better to reach out and attack someone that they felt was maybe in a weaker situation than them. And so you find a lot of men attacking women because they feel like they're easy targets. And occasionally you'll find self-loathing women that don't like themselves attacking you as well. So they're just, it's sad people. It's so easy.
That's what I think this really comes down to, because a lot of times, most of the people who are trolling, and we'll talk about the critiques in a second, but since we're talking about trolling, I'll talk about the trolling. Most of the people that are trolling, they're not going to say anything to you in person, but they do it because they can, because they're able to hide behind a Twitter handle or an Instagram handle. And, you'll never cross paths with them in real life. Mm-hmm. So, it makes it easier. Social media actually encourages that type of behavior. But I think going back to the initial one of three questions that Bill proposed earlier, when do you take into account a person's critique? And I think all criticism is important. All criticism needs to be heard. Doesn't need to be taken, but it needs to be heard. I think for me, the biggest challenge is, because I'm a not so humble guy, I'm by my own admission, and I'm very combative just in regular conversations, and I like to challenge the status quo. It's very easy for me to engage somebody, and I try not to do it. I have to actually be proactive in not engaging with people and just ignoring, the nonsense and staying true to whatever the critique would be. But when you think about the concept of criticism and constructive criticism, it's very important that you listen to it, but you don't have to incorporate it, because you want everybody to feel like they're heard, and you want everybody to have their opportunity to communicate their thoughts. And whether you agree with it or not, it might be something in there for you, and it might be straight nonsense in there. And you got to kind of look through that. But yeah, I like everybody to be heard, because I wouldn't want to have a critique and somebody not want to listen to me, right? So it's only right that I give that.
I also assume that if you had a critique, you wouldn't. I think as soon as you tie in like personal attacks or rape and death threats, I think you're
that becomes trolling.
I'm not listening to you. You're gone.
No, that's all trolling. I'm not talking about that. That's why I said I leave that in the trolling column. The second you start talking about me, as opposed to talking about what it is that I'm doing, or the second that you start to tie in my character, like I think you're not a good person, then you're going along the lines of trolling. Right. But if you have a critique on something that I'm doing and you say, I don't think that people were listening to you because of the way that you came off, or maybe if you would have been a little bit more assertive, people might have listened to you a bit more. That is a critique. And whether I think that I was being assertive or whether I think that I wasn't being assertive, I can incorporate what they say at that point, or I cannot. But the second you start talking about, I didn't like your face, or I don't like the way you made me feel, or all that stuff, that's trolling. That's not going to help me get better.
It's interesting that you bring up the idea of being assertive, because oftentimes women are told that we're too assertive, that
Absolutely.
we are, and whenever we try to speak as loud as men, we are told that we are shouting. So it's really interesting to think about in terms of critique when you're dealing with something that a man's doing and something that a woman is doing. Because in my case, what could be constructive criticism for you would be a personal attack. So it's a little tricky to determine. And also, people that are professional trolls on the internet will often do what's called like jacking off, which is just asking questions. So they will try to.
That's JAQ, people.
Yeah,
JAQ.
Oh, I'm like.
Yeah. So they'll come across
Just
as like
asking questions. Is that what that stands for?
Questions
Oh, I get it.
just asking questions about what kind of work you're doing and why you think that's a good idea, when really they're trolling you. So it's a very fine line when you're on the internet. But I absolutely agree that you should listen to critique from your peers. Like, I don't think that you need to listen to critique from just everybody, and I don't think everybody has a right to my time, because I'm a very busy person, and I don't believe in like the free speech concept of the internet, and I hardly ever read the comment section on the blog posts that I even write myself. So I have too much going on. I'm running a business, I'm doing all kinds of things, I'm always making art. I don't have time to listen to everybody's advice. But if I'm talking to somebody that I know is on my level, like one of you guys or someone else in the maker community that I respect, and they want to tell me that, here's a better way to mix that glaze, I'm totally going to listen up, It's a fine line, and it's also really difficult, I think, for women that have opinions on the internet, or women that are high profile on the internet. They're going to get besieged with a lot more negativity on a regular basis, and so it's harder to manage your time and to decide what is negative and what is criticism.
Jeff, I know you got something to say.
No, you go. It's okay.
No.
I'm going to forget, but it's okay.
Okay. No, I want to focus the rest of the show on criticism, okay?
All right.
But before we leave trolling behind, there is one thing that I want to say, which is I object to using the word trolling, okay? That is straight up harassment. Because when I was younger, trolling was when you would say something to get a rise out of somebody. Like if somebody was a Star Trek fan, you would be like, yeah, that Boba Fett's pretty cool, I guess. And, they would like, Boba Fett's in Star Wars. Like that was trolling, okay? That was trolling. And this thing that's happening now that gets called trolling, it causes people like me to go, oh, well, it's just trolling. I mean, they're just trying to get a rise out of him. And then you look at it and you go, that's horrifying.
That's
what just
really
happened?
Bullying. I think we mistake trolling for bullying.
Right. And so I want to draw a nice fat line between there's trolling, which was this internet phenomenon where, hey, let's take someone who's super serious about something and poke them a little bit and see what happens. And then there's harassment, which is here's photos of your house.
Right, which is what has happened to me in the past, which will likely happen to me again, and what is happening to people like Leslie Jones right now. If you guys are familiar with what's going on with her, the star of
They just leaked her
Ghostbusters.
nudes, right?
Yeah, they posted her home address, her passport, her driver's license, and pictures of her allegedly that are of her naked. It could not be. In my case, when I was getting harassed, they would Photoshop my face onto naked bodies. So we don't know if those were actually her photos or not. But yeah, there's definitely, the media calls it trolling now.
Yeah.
But there's such a widespread phenomenon of harassment, particularly of women on the internet, that it's very important, I suppose, to differentiate between trolling and harassment. But what you hear as trolling is most likely harassment now.
Well, when I get into those conversations, I tend to use the word harassment because I want to, and I'll make the point again right now, which is I don't care what you have to say. Like, bringing it to that level completely invalidates anything else that you said. All right, you're done.
Right.
And it's not, again, going on what we were talking about earlier with the criticism, and you said something, Amy, that made me think, and now I remember what I was going to say, Bill. You said that if they're not on your level, that, you're just not, and it's not because you don't care what they have to say. It's more so because you don't have the time to go through everybody who's just everybody.
And because I'm jaded. I mean,
and
let's
maybe
be
that's too. And you have every right to be jaded, and I support your jadedness. But I think for me, I think that being heard is super important. And again, we're not talking about the trolling aspect. We're talking specifically about people who might have a criticism that might either make it better or make it worse, and they don't know what they're saying anyway. But I think it's important, and if you don't have the time, you don't have the time. But I think it's important for everybody to be heard or feel heard, because even in a situation where somebody has something to say that is completely harmless, they're just saying, I wish you would have said that a little bit more aggressively, or you would have backed off a little bit, or you seem like you were a little confrontational in that discussion, or maybe your video needed to get a little bit more lighting. And I think, Bill, you said this, you'll go on somebody's page and say, well, this person has 0 followers.
Well, it wasn't even followers. It was, if they're saying, this video sucks, this project sucks, and you
but
suck,
that's trolling.
And they didn't ever make anything themselves. Yeah, it's okay. Absolutely. Well, I don't have to listen to you.
If it's anything, I think it's important. If you have the time, again, I'm going to preface this with, if you have the time, I think it's important, if you're sitting around and you have nothing to do, to go and look at comments and things that they say. And if somebody says something about the content that you're doing, that you're creating, the project that you made, whatever it is about the specific thing that you're doing that you want people to like, I think hearing those things are important, because it might be something that you could, possibly incorporate. And if it's not, and you don't want to, that's fine too. But I think everybody adds some value to something if it's in the space of relevant to what it is that you're doing. If it's about your character or something like that, I don't care who they are. It's not worth my time.
All right. We're going to leave the trolls in the dust and just talk about criticism.
Yes.
Right on. So long, suckers.
Generally, Jeff, I'm pretty much with you on that, because if I see somebody who makes even if it's poorly worded, because I know how hard it is to read tone on the internet, Somebody could write something out and they didn't mean it to sound like a jerk, but it comes across that they sound jerky. But I will still try to take a step back from it and go, okay, what did they actually say? Is there any validity there? And then, okay, well, there isn't. All right.
And then you move on.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll even run it past somebody whose opinion I trust. I'm like, listen, if this, is there any validity to this? What do you think? Because that way, you're getting a second opinion, but using that as a prompt.
Absolutely. And we tend, as humans, to get caught in our feelings very easily. And, you don't know what type of information you might miss just because you either don't. And again, it's very easy for me to start talking and take over a room. It's very easy for me to do that.
I've been meaning to tell you to shut up.
If we were to time how much I speak on this podcast, it'd probably be through the roof. And I don't even want to see those numbers. But it's very easy. My wife tells me all the time, when I go into a room, I have to be conscious of the fact that I can take over a conversation. And, I'm not trying to be confrontational, but, I have very strong views and I convey those views in a very, very powerful way. So, it's very important for me to make the conscious effort to hear everybody. And whether I incorporate your criticism or not, I think it's important that I'm at least listening, because there might be something that I could benefit from. And a lot of times you hear the same thing over and over and over. And, after a while, it's a pattern and you're like, maybe there is something to it. And, at that point, you have to kind of decide for yourself whether or not you want to make the change or not. But, it's just a growing and a development thing. And, we all go through it. We all have to learn. And based on your experiences, you might be a little bit more jaded and might be a little less inclined to want to hear things, which is perfectly fine. You deserve that. And then you might have somebody who's not been jaded, who's never had any type of criticism. So they're just open to everything, and that's fine too. So, and again, this is all based on somebody wanting to say something about the product or the content or the thing that you do, the thing that you make.
Okay, so if we're talking in terms of just the product that you make and criticism of your actual work that's legitimate or specifically from a customer, here's some advice that I have for you.
Is this a list?
Number 1 on my list
Here we go.
of advice on dealing with criticism is to invent a person in your head that does customer service and respond as that person.
Ooh.
And this is a great idea that a friend of mine taught me, and she has an online store. And so whenever she has a difficult customer, she pretends that she is a older woman named Ethel who does customer service for a living, and she responds in her mind as Ethel to the customer. And this has worked really, really well for me when I'm having a bad day or, I'm just tired. And since I have to do everything for my little maker business, I am the front end, I'm shipping and receiving, I am, the factory, I am all of it. So I am also Ethel when I have a difficult customer. And it works really well because then I'm not responding as me. So my feelings are just somehow separated from it. And then I can deal with criticism in a really positive way. And it helps me out a lot. When someone returns a necklace for whatever reason because they don't like it, it hurts a little bit because you're like, why don't you love what I did?
Yeah.
But Ethel doesn't care. Ethel happily takes the return and, offers a store credit or, a refund or whatever you need because Ethel loves her job.
That is
and her
freaking genius. That is great.
I would just be a little bit careful with that.
Yeah.
Because pretending to be Ethel for too long, you might.
Eventually, I will become Ethel.
Yes, and we'll be doing this podcast, and Ethel will come out. We're gonna be like, wait.
What is going on?
Is everything okay?
It's really helpful, though, in terms of separating your personal feelings from your business. Just think of Ethel. She always wants the customer to be happy.
Oh, man, that's great. Something that I actually encounter a lot is, especially in the maker community, especially in the YouTube maker community, I've seen a lot of the problem going in the other direction where people they know that negativity can be poisonous, especially when somebody's just getting started. So what they will do is they will just be relentlessly positive, like it's awesome, it's so awesome, this was great, I loved watching it, do more. But then if they do actually have something that they don't like about it, they won't tell you. And then you don't know what you need to improve.
Yeah.
So I've collected kind of a small group of people who I know I can say, look, I need honesty on this one, I get that you like me, I get that you like my work and want me to keep going. If I had to change something here, what would it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because positivity is awesome and I love it, okay? And I love being able to do that for people because I'm slowly reaching a point now where I have people getting in touch with me saying, hey, can you watch my first video? I don't know if I should post this or not. And I will watch it. And, if there are issues, I will say, okay, this was awesome. My first video sucked. This is great. Post this. This is good. For the next one, keep this in mind. Mm-hmm. And it's not because I'm trying to knock them down at all. It's just because I'm aware that I had that problem for 3 or 4 videos there. I was kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And there's some really obvious things I could have fixed. But nobody told me because they were too afraid of it, knocking the wind out of my sails, and I would quit. And
that's why I say, it's important to encourage people or make people feel welcome when they're telling you stuff specific to the product, right? And making them feel comfortable, whether you agree with it or not. The fact of being heard, it makes people feel more comfortable with at least expressing things. And you never know, somebody might tell you something that you'll be like, you know what, that's a great idea. I should do that. And next thing you know, it shoots you into the 20 million view range. And then Bill forgets about us. And then
I can never forget
it's just
you.
Amy and I. But you get where I'm coming from. And I think what you just said is very true. The positive reinforcement of just doing, it encourages people. That's why people join, that's why maker spaces and the community aspect of making is so important, because just the nature of being with people or being around like-minded people kind of encourages you. And when you have something that can be improved upon or isn't where it needs to be, they will let you know.
Yeah.
They will let you know.
Okay, so recommendation number 2 on my list of dealing with critique is to form a core group of people that you can trust that are also working on similar projects as you to give you critique. Ask for critique. I think that's one of the best things that I learned when I was taking art classes is they teach you to accept critique. You have to hang up all your new work on the wall, and everyone in the classroom was required to tell you something that was wrong with the piece that you did. And I mean, I learned so much from that. And in school, it's like there's other students, you don't really care what they think or you don't know them or whatever, but if you go forward in life and you're going to do a business on this, I think it's extremely important, like what Bill said, to have people that you can trust, that you can reach out to and say, hey, is this okay? Because you don't want to just ask the general public, because you don't necessarily know what kind of responses you're going to get. But like I said, if you have a group that you can trust, it's priceless. There's so much value in having other artists or other makers that you can turn to. And yeah, maker spaces are awesome for that. It's perfect.
Absolutely. Not only is having that group around you, but also, the experience within the group, you can, like Bill does, leverage that experience, whether it's directly for your product or for, using some type of collaboration, like just making people feel welcome and feeling the connectedness of being a part of that group is going to help you go to so many different places. So if you guys are out there listening and you're saying, you know what, I have something that I think I need to get a little bit of input on, go join a community. If you get into that community and people start giving you a little bit of critique, listen to it all, right? You don't have to incorporate it, but listen to it and kind of weed it out.
Give yourself a chance to absorb the information, because I think instinctively as people, we want to reject it when someone says something. Yeah, get defensive when someone says something negative about your work. But I mean, give it a chance to sink in and learn to accept the positive in the negative comments that you're getting on your work.
Yeah. And when you are selecting that group of people, one of the things that I try to do is I grew up, and when I was in school, I was always the smart kid in the room.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I know.
You.
It's a good problem to have.
I used to hang out with you.
I used to trip you in the hallway.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, where's Bill?
I still got bruises from that. But what I was gonna say was, what that taught me was that now when I'm doing this, I try to make sure I'm always the dumbest person in the room, or at least the least experienced person in the room. Dumb is kind of a harsh word, but yeah. I try to make sure I'm the least experienced person in the room. I try to make sure I surround myself with people that I can learn something from. And that's not to say that I don't add value to it, because any person will have their own perspective, and you might end up teaching somebody something that they were not expecting at all. But it is important to make sure that the people around you are skilled and knowledgeable. You might have equal experience, but in different areas. So you'll both learn from each other.
Yeah, I was always so weirded out by people that don't want to be around other artists because they're afraid they're going to be influenced by their work. I've known a lot of people like that, and I think it's really strange. Like jewelry people that don't want to be around other jewelry people, or ceramic people that don't want to be, or painters that don't want to be around each other. And I think that that's just a really bad way to go about life, because nothing is truly original. And I think you're much better off being around a positive group. And I've said this before on other episodes, like, surround yourself with people that are doing stuff, and you're going to be more likely to do stuff too. And the quality of your work is going to be raised by the quality of the work around you.
Very true. Like, sometimes that criticism, might not be from somebody saying something. It might be from you seeing something. All right.
Yeah.
It's something, because it doesn't always have to be said.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll see something and go, oh, that would have been so much better. We actually had a question from Mark Spagnolo. Hey.
Yay.
Hi, Mark. And what Mark said was, I would love to hear what you guys think about the whole "you should have a thicker skin" response content creators typically get when they complain about trolls and poorly worded criticism. And I know from watching Mark's channel that he just worked out this huge sponsorship deal with Honda. So he was doing some projects that prominently featured like a Honda Ridgeline truck parked in the back, which I mean, it's not a tool company, but it's most of the makers that I know drive a truck. If they have a car, it's a truck.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo because I have a little like hatchback, but whatever.
I always had trucks. I don't have a car at all right now, but as soon as I have the money, that's exactly what I'm buying. I'm buying a truck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy that one now.
But he immediately got a ton of thumbs down on the first
Of course
video.
he did.
And he got a whole bunch of comments about like, oh, you're such a sellout,
Oh,
blah,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And his response was, well, first of all, I got to eat.
Yeah.
And second, have you been paying attention? I sold out like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, what are we expecting? It's so funny. We're expected to not be successful. Is that what it is? Like, if we're going to be artists or makers, we're not supposed to sell our work. We're not supposed to be doing well. I mean, ultimately, you want to be successful. But when you are, and when something you do does well, it absolutely brings out all of the trolls from the woodwork. Sorry, guys.
But I'm fine.
And that's what happens. And people, like I said in the very beginning of this episode, when you look into the lives of trolls on the internet, 9 times out of 10, what you find is someone that is unhappy with their own life for whatever reason, or they tried to do something that you are doing successfully and failed at it. And so they lash out at you because they know that they can. And for a moment, it makes them feel better. And what does that even mean, have a thicker skin? Like, I get that thrown at me all the time. When I was bombarded by that harassment campaign, I was told that all the time. Have a thicker skin. No, I don't want to have a thicker skin. And I do. You know, in comparison to most people, I handle trolls and criticism very, very well. I've been dealing with it for decades. I'm great at it now.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have a lot of practice.
I have had so much practice that it's really, 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 really difficult to sort of like remove me from my happy place. I'm firmly planted in it. But what does have a thicker skin even mean? Don't be sensitive. Don't be creative. Don't be an
human.
artist.
That's what
don't
they
be
want.
human. Yeah,
That's
don't
what
be
they want you to
open
do.
to things in the world. Like, is it only in this specific instance you should have a thicker skin when people are talking trash to you in your comment section on your blog or your YouTube channel? I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's just another way of people saying, let me beat you up more.
Yeah,
You know?
it's this whole, I should get to say whatever I want, and you
Yeah.
shouldn't be allowed to call me out on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is this, it's like the bizarro version of free speech that has developed free speech. I'm doing the air quotes. I know nobody can see the video.
I know.
But it's developed over the past few years, and it's this thing where people think that they're allowed to say stuff and there shouldn't be any consequences.
You shouldn't be. If someone
It's not
blocks
that it
you,
shouldn't be. It's not that it shouldn't be consequences. It's the fact that people can say stuff and there can't be consequences because they're saying it over the internet. So, you know, this social media has developed this type of culture where it is acceptable and it is normalized. But I think that the concept of having a thicker skin, how can you say that to somebody who creates something for the sole purpose of wanting people to like it?
And then gives it
wanting
away
people
for
to
free.
value it?
And then gives it away for free. I'm going to point that out.
Yes, like that. For me, that concept doesn't go. And I understand that you have to, you know, bricks. What is it? Bricks and bones might
Sticks and stones.
Sticks and stones. Said bricks will break your bones.
Yeah, they will.
Sticks and stones might break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Yeah, but they weren't talking about the fact that what hurts me is the fact that people don't appreciate something that I've spent a lot of time.
They're willing
creating.
to dismiss it so offhand, just so flippantly, like, sell out.
And that's specific. And I'm talking about. Not right now, I'm talking about the trolling aspect, people who are coming at my character. Like if I spend time developing a concept or developing a product and I want this to, you know, represent me and the things that I love and the beauty that I see, and you start saying, oh, this guy is black, this guy is ignorant, this guy is this guy is that. Like, what does that have to do? Like, you're completely ignoring the beauty that I see and the beauty that I'm trying to put forth. And you're coming at me as an individual, like that to me does not compute. And the second that I get face to face with anybody who says anything about Bill or Amy, it will go down.
That
Like
is
I
the
said,
sweetest
like
thing.
I said, Amy, I'm still looking for the person who owes you money for that order. So
I took care of it, baby.
Oh,
I
okay,
took care
never
of it.
mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The other common one that YouTubers get is, oh, yeah, well, if I had, $500,000 worth of tools, I could do that too, which is it doesn't sound like much, but it's essentially saying you have no skill.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to point out the fact once again that I literally started my business from nothing.
I would also like to point
Nothing.
out that even somebody like Mark Spagnolo does not have anywhere near $500,000 worth of tools.
Yeah.
Like, I could go through my garage. I did this before just as an exercise. I went through my garage and I tallied up like the approximate price of everything. And I'm sitting on maybe $5,000.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Listen, I have $5,000 worth of technology, like 3D printers, computer. I have multiple. I don't know why I have so many computers, but I felt like I needed them for different things, different programs. I got computers, printers, tools, material. Like, the amount of money that we invest in this, the amount of dedication that goes into this. Most people don't dedicate as much as of their lives to a craft the way that we do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We spend like half my paycheck goes to buying filament and fixing my printer. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm that dedicated. So don't tell me that I need to have thicker skin because you want to ignore the beauty that I'm creating to talk about something that's completely irrelevant to the process and the topic and the thing that I'm putting forth.
Yeah, and what you just brought up is you don't get a complete workshop like that or a complete set of tools like that without making sacrifices somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, like Amy, you have a studio.
Because I have no car.
Right. You have no car, okay?
I made a choice, you guys.
Right, and like I have a bunch of tools, but I also had to sell off a bunch of other stuff that I had so I could afford to buy those tools. And then I still had to buy them used. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm in debt. I'm in debt. And I'm betting on myself. And I tell my wife this all the time. Like, the stuff that we're doing right now, the work that we're putting in right now, it's gonna pay off.
Yeah.
May not pay off right now, may not
Right.
pay off next year, but it's gonna pay off at some point. So I'm basically gambling on myself. So don't tell me I need to have thicker skin. I live for this. I'm taking food off my table.
Yeah.
And I'm taking money out of my pocket. I'm taking time out of my day. Like, I come home every day, and obviously I'm getting a little emotional here. And this is why
Go for it, man.
like I said, it's very easy for me to go there. And I have to be very self-conscious with myself. You don't tell me that I go to work all day and then come home and spend hours on a project or developing a concept or editing a video. And then I put it out there because I want people to appreciate it. And then the only thing you have to say is something that's not relevant to the thing that I put forth at all. It's all about me and the fact that you don't like me or the fact that I look like this and all these other things. That to me is the frustrating part. And what's even more frustrating is the fact that people only do it on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can, and because there's no way for me to know who you are, right? And it's not like I care. But if I was able to look at what you dedicate your time to, right, I'm sure you don't come anywhere close to me. You don't.
My audience is small enough that I don't get a ton of trolls yet, but I have come up with the perfect response, which is just, and now that I'm going to say it now and I'm going to ruin it.
So you want to hold on to it?
No, it's cool. I might as well share it. But anytime I get a negative comment or like a comment that's weird or doesn't make sense or it's a criticism that doesn't really apply, my advice is always like, thanks for watching. I always reply the same thing, which is just, pretend it was a compliment. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they get, they don't know what to say to that. They don't know how to respond.
And
Another good one is duly noted.
No, I like both of those, and I'll tell you why. Because that reminds the individual that they just spent time watching someone, because it's not about the thing that you're doing, it's about you. All right. So they just took time out of their day to watch you and to leave a comment on you, which is, again, another second that they're not doing something for themselves.
And jokes on them, because YouTube doesn't care what you say in the comments. It all counts.
It all
counts.
You're still
as
getting
engagement,
paid.
baby.
You still put money in their pocket.
Yeah.
That's funny. I never thought about that.
Yeah, you know what? I hope a whole bunch of people show up and hate the video, because
I might need a couple of trolls now.
Yeah, I'll take their money too. I don't care.
Come criticize, troll, whatever you want. I need another source of income.
I think that's probably Amy, I'm sorry. We've been cutting you off this whole time.
It's okay. I was just going to say that there's a similar, you don't make money off it on Twitter now, but Twitter has rolled out a new feature that helps a lot of people who are getting targeted. And you can now just mute everyone, or you can set your replies to only get messages in your box from people that you follow. So now if all these people want to come at you for something that you said on a podcast or what have you, you can have the thickest skin in the world because you can simply not even notice that they're talking to you anymore.
You just turn the volume way down.
You just turn the volume so down that you got like a leather jacket on. You are so good.
That's cool. All right, I think that's probably a good place to stop. So let's do our recommendations, and then we'll get out of here.
All right. Do you want me to go?
Whoever wants to go first.
Amy.
I don't
Hey.
know. Easy. One of these weeks, I'm going to go first, and it's going to freak me out.
It's going to freak everyone out. I know. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Ray Burks. She's a chemist friend of mine, and she's amazing. And she runs the DIY Science Zone at Geek Girl Con. And that is happening the weekend after Maker Faire in New York in Seattle. And they're doing a fundraiser right now for the DIY Science Zone. So we'll put a link to it in our show notes. You can go check it out online. It's an amazing conference. It's Geek Girl Con, but it's open to everyone. All ages, all genders. Everyone is welcome to this event. And Ray is in charge of this amazing section of the conference where it's all science activities for kids. And it's so much fun. They make all these different things. It's all hands-on experiments, and they have a bunch of different scientists that they fly in from across the world to teach kids, and it's so fantastic. And so I highly recommend you check that out.
Oh, that was it?
That was it. Well, I mean, I got more. I have a list, actually, of other things.
Well, you said you had a shout out, and then I assumed there was something else coming after that.
Oh, I have another shout out on my list, but I guess I should let Jeffrey do it, but I don't know. We both have gotten these, like, the nicest messages. Speaking of the opposite of trolling and the opposite of critique, Jeremy Thompson. What's his YouTube channel? I have it.
Thompson.
Devon Thompson. Yeah, it's so amazing. Okay, so we'll put a link to this too. He sent a really, really nice message about our podcast and reached out to me and friended me on Facebook. And I went and checked out a couple of his videos, and he was one of the first people ever to build a tiny house, and he did it by using a converted school bus.
Yes.
And it's absolutely incredible. Like, it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And he has these 2 9-minute videos that are like a tour of this tiny house, which I think he called something else because at the time tiny houses weren't such a fad. But it's really incredible what he did, and his wife helped him, and how, like, she was pregnant with their child when they first started creating it, and now, you know, the whole family can live in this amazing converted bus, and it's so fantastic. And then he has a bunch of other more current videos of all the different projects that he's doing, and he does a lot of conversions of containers into living spaces, and it's just really, really great stuff.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Definitely shout out to Jeremy. I was actually going to use him as a recommendation this week and tell everybody to check out his container series. And then Amy said that she got a message too. So we were like, you know what, we'll just share this one.
Yeah,
so that is actually one of my recommendations. The other one of my recommendations, and I believe that I talked about this at some point, but I also co-founded a media production company a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And we've done a lot of different things. Primarily right now, we do videos, teasers. We do a couple of videos for education systems in Buffalo. And, you know, we do little work here and there, little freelance work like weddings and stuff. So if you're in the New York City or the Buffalo area and you're looking for somebody to shoot your wedding, shoot a video, photography, videography, whatever, you can contact us at theavenuecode.com. And you can check us out at theavenuecode@gmail.com. So that's part of the recommendation. The real recommendation is 2 years ago, we created what we call the Sweat series. And if you are a football fan and you like Hard Knocks, it's kind of like that, but it's for college football. And it was for the college that I went to and played football for. And 2 years ago, we created what we call the Sweat series, and it's an 8-part series. And the videos are excellent, great quality, but, you know, it was the first time we actually tried to do a series. So actually, we just got picked up for a season 2. We got a couple of sponsors to foot the bill, and, you know, with our new skills, and now we're producing a season 2 of the Sweat series at Buffalo State College. And right now we just started shooting that this past Monday. Today's Thursday. So we've got about 4 days worth of shooting. I am not actually shooting. I just produced the show, executive produced the show with my co-founder. But it's an excellent series. I want everybody to check out. If you have a little bit of time, check out a couple of episodes of the first season that came out 2 years ago. And then I will let you guys know when the new season comes out, and which will probably be in the spring because it takes a whole lot of time to edit and finish up the whole series.
Congratulations.
That's so cool. Congrats. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I guess I better recommend some stuff, huh?
Well, I mean, it'll be a good idea.
I have another one that I can save for next week.
No, I'm going now. It's
This
my
is
turn.
Bill's time.
It's my time.
Just cross that off the list.
Yeah.
Save it for next week.
So, my recommendation for this week, to the surprise of no one, is Jimmy DiResta. If you've been listening to the podcast this long and you don't know who Jimmy DiResta is, where have you been?
I know who he is
Obviously
now.
not
I
listening.
follow him. I follow him on Instagram. He takes really nice photos.
Yeah, he's super active on Snapchat. He does a lot of in between his major project videos, you can watch him on Snapchat and he'll just walk you through whatever he's doing that day and, what his pets are up to. And he's got a house full of strays and yeah.
He's very cool. That's the only way I can describe him.
He's the nicest person I've ever met. And I mean that literally.
I like him.
The reason I'm pointing out his channel this week is because he got a hands-on test of the Shaper Origin, which is a handheld computer-guided router.
Ooh.
So if you have a small workshop and you don't have room for a full-size CNC machine, what you do is you take this thing and you load the file into it, and you basically move the thing around, and it will, within an inch or so, it will guide the router bit to make sure that you stay on the line. And it's accurate to within, I think, 1/100th of an inch.
Hang on, you control it with your hand?
Yeah, you move the router around, but there's also motors on it that move the router so that it stays perfectly on the line. He did a video where he cut a big stencil of his name 4 feet wide using this thing, and he shows you how it works, and it scans the workpiece, and then he puts it down and he cuts it out and sprays his name real big on the floor. And he has a CNC machine, but it's not big enough to do that. So it's a way for a small workshop to get CNC capability in a something that can be put in a drawer when you're done.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's in prototype right now, but Jimmy did a nice little walkthrough of it. And if you just want to see him build some cool stuff, you can watch every other video he's done. So go check out Jimmy DiResta if you haven't by now, and shame on you for not doing it by now.
Very interesting.
I think we're done for the week, so let's talk about where everybody can find us.
All right, so if you're looking for me, you could find me on Instagram and Twitter at more_4. And if you want to find me on Facebook, you can find me at more4, with the F being a number 4.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at surly-amy. You can find my fine art and my robot drawings on patreon.com/surly-amy. And you can find Surly-Ramics jewelry at surly-ramics.com.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Car Workshop. On Instagram, remember, I am running a giveaway. I am giving away a bottle opener that I made. It is open until Wednesday. Go check that out. I am also available at onecarworkshop.com, or you can search Bill Lavolsi on YouTube or Make Magazine, and you will find my stuff. So that's it for this week. If you're listening to the show on iTunes, please take a moment to leave us a rating and tell us what you think. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Makers Hustle. If you want to ask a question, give feedback, or suggest a show topic, you can either contact us through social media or send an email to info@makershustlepodcast.com. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and while this show might be over, the hustle never stops. See you next week.
Ever.
Thanks, guys.
It keeps going and going
Bye,
and going
everybody.
and going and going and going and going and going. Ooh, I got a little beat going. Going and going and going and going and going, going and 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 going.